Shalom, shalom.
All right, all right. Shalom, shalom, everybody. Welcome to back to the Fourth Principle Podcast. Today, I will be your host. The other brothers are sitting off camera, but we have some special guests in the studio today, which we would call Ishas and sisters, and a sister that we have also. And like I say, I'm Yazakar bin Adonai, and I would like for all the sisters to say who you are.
I'm sorry.
I'm starting. I'm Kia.
Najira.
It's yeah.
Zaya like fire.
Cain, all praises. And today we're gonna ask the sisters some questions concerning basically the Hebrew paradigm that a lot of us would say probably still in, which I'm still in. I'm still a Hebrew. That's not going to change. Actually, an Hebrew. Let me get it right. Hebrew Israelite from the tribe of Lewi. So that's what I understand myself to be. I don't know about these sisters up here, but they were in the same camp or Knesset or family structure that we were all in. So we're going to ask these sisters some questions about their experience in being a Hebrew and being in that in that space, and hopefully it could help some other sisters out there, and that's going through their emotions in this experience. And also, like I said, I got the brothers on the outside. They're sitting on the other side of the studio, and they may have some questions. So, just be with us, and we will continue on our journey. All right, y'all fine? Everybody's good?
Ready?
You're not going to ask them questions. I can't hear you. I can't hear you, but okay. You just gonna have to say it.
I got you. Disclaimer: we're not here to bash anybody.
Oh,
we're
yeah.
talking about our personal experience.
Right.
Okay, yeah. No bashing, and it's not a bashing course. We're just getting their experience and how they looked at being in the Hebrew paradigm, and that's how they look at it. I'm gonna tell y'all like this. I had fun, and I will continue on having fun. No matter what the situation was, I'm going to have fun. It's just that simple. Now, I'm just, that's just me. That's just me. That's just my experience. Now, everybody else has their own experience. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to start with the first question, and we're going to start from here, going around answering them the same question, if y'all don't mind. Okay. All right. It says, briefly describe your experience. What was it like for you with other Hebrew Israelites?
Just other Hebrew Israelites?
Yeah, at first. Your first experience, right? When you first came in.
So prior to meeting Kazakia, Karem, my Ish, I had already had some experience with the Hebrew Israelite community by way of an aunt who I considered like a mother. So that experience was a little off-putting when she first started sharing what was happening with her. It was definitely a different type of, it wasn't something that I was interested in being a part of, like as far as with her. But this was all just her sharing her experience living in California. But she changed her name to Hazaka, and
Okay.
she married and went on to have children for a man who was a polygamous leader in the community. She was dealing with having second wives, and she had actually had adult children and went to have children for this man. She was really like, she had dove in. And she was doing that for at least 10 years. So her experience is different. I don't want to speak too much on her experience, but that was like my first time touching on the Hebrew Israelite community. When I met my Ish, he introduced it to me in a different light because at the time he had explained that he was a culture studies teacher. So there were things that I was already in tune with that he was like teaching classes on.
Right.
And so that was very attractive. Plus, at the time, he was breaking the Bible down to me in a way that I hadn't had in the past. Okay. So I had looked at it a lot differently, because in the past, I was definitely like, I ain't with that. I studied Islam. I actually took my Shahada when I was like 16 years old. So I was studying Islam. Had covered before, was making my own clothes, and had gone to Eids and participated, and was at 16 in the process of getting married to someone it was like being arranged and everything. So that was like my first experience with Islam. This same aunt that I was referring to ended up coming to get me around that age. I was a little young, but long story. And she took me to California, and then I kind of just disconnected from the Islamic community. So fast forward, when I met my Ish, I don't know, we really did connect right away with respect to that. I actually remember asking him, are you a Hebrew Israelite? And he was like, yeah. And I don't really know what made me do that. I'm pretty sure it was intuitive that made me ask him that. But I think he had asked me my name, and when I said my name, he kind of like a little sparkle in his eye, and I was like, got him. And then that's kind of how it continued. And like I said, he did introduce the Bible to me in a different way. So my initial experience was it was much more light and welcoming, and it tied into things that already resonated with me. Okay. So that was how it was for me in the beginning. So I'm not going to take up too much more time, because I know we'll get into it a little bit more.
Right. All right. Itia?
My experience of first coming in, I could say it was a bit rebellious. You can contest to that, because you know the situation. But we were coming from church, actually, and I was raised in church as well. So, of course, when you started listening to different brothers speak and things of that nature, I was like, oh no, I'm not. So it was like, I'm not doing this. And, coming from a household where my mom sent us to Sunday school, morning service, and evening service, we was there every Sunday. So it was like, that's what I was rooted in. So I was like, I'm not doing this, and I'm going to continue to go to church. And, of course, you said, okay. Yep. So it was like, fine. But then the nosy nature of me was like, what is he listening to? One day when he was listening to the elders, and I was like, now that makes a lot more sense to me. So the nosy part of me won over, so I decided to go to one of the Shabbats. And when I went in, I was like, I guess when I first started to go in, I was like, this is going to be crazy. I'm going to be running back out this door. But actually, it was very welcoming. Everybody greeted you. They hugged you like they knew you. And I didn't know anyone. So it was like, okay. So then when the Morays got up and started teaching, I was like, this makes a lot of sense. And we started on, I think it was Bereshit. So I was like,
I think when we first came in, yeah.
And
actually, it was after the Passover.
Right, and like Zaya said, a lot of the Bible was explained to me totally different than what I was used to growing up. We did, Sunday school, and, they taught different things. But as the scriptures were broken down, I was like, oh, this makes a lot more sense to me. So, I started just going and going and going. And then, met the sisters, became comfortable. So that was my first experience.
Okay. Nigeria?
Okay. So for me, my family is, half my family is Christian, the other half is Muslim. I felt like I didn't really fit in either place. So I was looking. So I've been watching people on like YouTube and stuff like that, just searching, like looking for something different. And I came upon COI. So when I got there, it was great. I mean, meeting everybody was great. I felt like I was connected to everybody that I spoke to, like within the first couple like Shabbats. It was good. Especially like like both of y'all said, the way they broke down scriptures, it was a lot different than what you experience in church. So, I mean, I was all in. I was ready. Like, I felt like I had this new family. Like, I loved everybody. I couldn't wait to see y'all on Saturdays. It was amazing. And it stayed that way for a long time because, like I said, I was searching for something. And every week I felt like I was finding what I had been looking for like this whole time. So it was like all these questions that I had before, everything was just making so much more sense. And then when you start like changing your life and like following Torah and the different things we were doing, it made sense, and it kind of like it felt like it fit, like that's what I should have been doing the whole time. So my experience at the beginning was very positive. I know sometimes people come in because of someone, but for me, I came in on my own, so it was a little bit different. So I had a really positive experience at the beginning.
Okay. Kia?
Dun, dun, dun. Very similar to Zaya. I met my Ish and was definitely that person that, oh, I'm not in the mic. Okay, can you hear me better? Mm-hmm. He was definitely that person for me that was sitting down, going over scriptures with me, going over it with my children. And this is prior to me ever coming to a service or anything. So we kind of started to build together.
Okay.
My first experience was a feast day. And I felt out of place because he gave me no guidelines. I walked in. Was it Passover?
Yes.
It was Passover. Everybody had white on. I had on all black. Mm. My kids had on Easter best. And I'm looking at everybody else like, yeah, I'm uncomfortable. I personally did not get the warm welcome of everybody coming to say, hey, how you doing? So I was kind of off in the cut. I remember the conversation we had. I saw Zaya, and I said, oh, my gosh, she is so beautiful. And he was like, she all right. I was just like, okay, maybe I crossed the line. I don't know what I said. But I probably left after 15 minutes, if that. Right. And I remember getting in the car. I called my mom. I said, Mom, I don't know what he is, but he's something. Because he was up there talking, and, I remember saying, I don't know what this is. He later told me, he said, I don't think this is going to work. So we didn't think we were going anywhere. Fast forward, we're still together. But that was my introduction.
Right. Okay. Well, that's all y'all experience seems it was pretty good to me. Seems like, now I would say this, coming in and trying to get that your first experience on a feast day is going to be tough because there's a lot going on feast days. I would recommend anybody don't come to your first. If you just coming in like that week, I'd be like, no, maybe you need to just keep coming to Shabbat, because feast days, if you're looking for to be integrated into the family, it's so much going on. You got the sisters making sure everybody's getting fed. So they're going to be doing their thing. They're not even going to be worried about you doing, coming in, this your first time or something like that. But I'm glad that, you overcame it.
Yeah, I definitely agree to an extent. But like she said, she could have been a little warned about what to expect.
Facts.
Because that is a lot. It's very overwhelming. It's a beautiful experience, but like you said, it can be a lot if you're not sure what you're supposed to be doing. And let's keep in mind, she was coming in with someone who was a leader of the community, so it was probably a whole lot more energy exchanged. So maybe if it's somebody that's just like, hey, this is what this is what you can expect. It's going to be a good time. We're going to have some food. It's going to be some, praise and worship and things of that nature. I think someone might be okay coming on a feast day, but for her coming with one of our leaders, that's like rolling in with the president.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you like, whoa, wait.
And let's be clear, I had no clue he was a moray. I didn't know what a moray was.
Right.
I was just like, he's something. He was up there hallelujah, and I was like, what's going on?
Right.
Okay, I'm out of my element. So, but yeah.
Okay. Cool. So when a person first come in, you're saying that, especially if it's a husband-wife situation or soon to be husband and wife situation, if the wife is not integrated into that, he should sit down and explain certain things, especially when it comes down to feast days, if he's inviting you to a first feast day.
Well, I'll speak on that because it was my experience. I actually admired the way he did things with me.
Okay.
So it wasn't like, come here, you got to sit, you got to do X, Y, and Z. Like, he really took his time with me. The one thing, once I was truly introduced, he said, don't watch YouTube. So I got
Right.
to know COY for COY. So it
Gotcha.
wasn't me looking at what other camps were doing, what other people were dealing with.
Got you. Go ahead, continue on.
Oh, sorry. So I do like the way that, you know, it happened. So yeah, that's what I'll say.
Okay. All right. Okay, so all right. So I'm like I say, I'm glad that you had. Go ahead.
I could touch on that though. Like as far as like maybe if okay, so it can be a little bit of a shock if like your experience was like nah, especially if you didn't know, right?
Well, I watched YouTube first. Well, listen.
Okay,
I
so
did not.
do not watch YouTube.
Don't watch YouTube.
Except watch this on YouTube. No. Okay, it can be a little bit of a shock, right? I had a little bit of cultural. So the way she explained the way Malakia kind of did it was like, all right, I'm not going to try to throw her in this pool too fast. Let's stick your foot in, you know what I'm saying? Maybe feel a little temperature so you can kind of gauge, because it can be overwhelming, especially if it's someone who's new. If it's a brother who's new, right? Say he's got a young lady that he's already seeing and he
Right.
kind of comes into the situation. If his whole life changes and his whole perspective changes, naturally he might want her to come along, but if it's going to tear them apart because he's trying to make her do something that could be completely outside of what's, you know, part of her core, like, knowledge in
Right.
terms of how a woman is supposed to act and because I mean it's a whole lot of things that you're supposed to do supposedly.
Are
Right.
we getting there? Are we
Right.
starting
But
already?
Hold on.
We
Not-
are.
Not
So,
all
yeah.
the way now.
So
Not all the
okay,
way.
but it's okay. But yeah, so him doing it that way probably was the most ideal because he already had some experience with that.
Right.
You know, and as a leader, he knew he had to be mindful of that. But yeah, so it can be overwhelming, but it's nice to try to like ease a person in. So it's one thing to sit someone down and say, hey, or just say, let me just show you a few things and let me just keep this in mind when you start to research this kind of information.
Gotcha.
Can I say something about that? Okay. So, like you said, in my situation, he was, I guess, researching it, getting into it, listening to it. So it was new to him. And then I'm sitting in the background, I'm like, something is going on. Like, what is going on? And unlike you, I wasn't introduced to it. We didn't talk about it. I just would sit back and like, oh no, I'm not doing that. Because
Oh, we
it
have a lot
wasn't
of those
explained to
moments.
me. But like I said, the nosy side of me just kept listening. And I'm like, I got to figure out what is going on. So, and then I would come home sometimes and he would not be there. And I was like, oh, okay. And then he would, I think the first
Was
time.
that a Shabbat
Yeah.
on a Sabbath day?
But the feast day he came home, he was dressed in all white, had the head. I said, oh, what is it?
Y'all
So
know.
it was
Y'all
like,
know how I get
was
down.
shocked because you all know him. He doesn't explain anything. It's just like, this what we doing. But luckily, I'm just one of them, ones that just like, okay, this what we doing. So what, can't ask him questions about, well, what's going to be said? What's going to, I don't know. You just have to come.
You have
So
to
it
come.
was like,
It's either you
okay.
now you trust me.
And see that's the thing. I wasn't a moray, so
Right.
I'm coming in just like she's coming in. So I'm like, okay, I'm new to this. I've done my research on the back end, but I'm really physically new to this. And certain things I was listening to online at a time, didn't line up with the brethrens at COI when I first got there. Until I started listening to some elders that I found online. Actually, them elders was out of Chicago somewhere. I forgot their name, but they was an older older gentlemen, and they went through scriptures, and I was like, "Yo, this is how my brethren teach it." So, and like you say, her, I don't want to say nosy nature, but she was laying there listening,
Inquisitive.
and and then the elders started turning the wheels, and then that's when she wanted to come to the Sabbath classes.
And then I just popped up and said, "I'm going with you." And he was like, "Okay."
Yeah. Okay.
So my
Right.
experience coming to COY though was a little bit different because I did have some knowledge of Israelites, but my experience with them was not positive at all because it was from up north, from New York and New Jersey. That was different. That was like what you see on YouTube.
Right.
So right.
Really?
So what I did was I found some people on YouTube that were teaching, and they seemed calm and normal and sane. And I reached out to them like, "Hey, I live in Virginia. Do you know anybody in the area?" And they kind of hooked me up with COI. So I talked to one of the Maureen prior to showing up at COI. So we had a conversation about like what goes on, how everything goes. So I came in like, okay, they're not crazy. This is gonna be fine, and it was okay. I came in prepared to, I might have to get up and leave at some point if it gets a little sketchy. But I was cool coming in.
Okay, cool. All right. Got everybody's experience on their first encounter with it. Now let me, because I don't know where y'all young ladies are at now, right? So because I don't want to pose this question, which is, what is your later experience in it? So when we stop having, let's say, Sabbath services like we was having them, what was your later experience from that point on? When did anything happen when we started stop holding Sabbath classes and stuff like that?
So from the point where we stopped.
Right. What was your experience then?
You want to go?
Yeah,
go back?
That's what I said. That's a later on question. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the.
I don't know if they can hear me. I would ask a question like as it progressed,
Okay.
how did things change for you individually, collectively, whatever the case may be, as it progressed?
Right. Okay. Yeah. How did it progress to you, going forth into COY or being an Israelite?
Go ahead, Kia. You got that.
You will not bait me. It was a struggle for me. It very much was a tug of war because it was a piece of me that was learning and I enjoyed what I was learning, but it was a piece of me that was becoming resentful because a lot of stipulations got put on me that I wasn't accustomed to. It was a lot of restrictions. It was a lot of rules and regulations. And for me, it was a struggle because when you come in, the first thing they tell you, this is not a religion. And it's like, okay, so this is different. I can learn and I don't have all these barriers. And then here comes all these barriers. So for me personally, it was a tug of war for me.
Okay.
Okay. So for me, it was okay.
Say it how you say it.
Going through it was okay. All the changes that I made was okay because, like I said, with my Muslim family, like that was very strict and there were a lot of rules and regulations. So I didn't really have a problem with that part. My issues started to come in when I started to see the differences between how some people were treated. There were some people women, like it was like there was a lot expected of the women, and it didn't really matter. Like it didn't really matter who you were. You were a woman, so this is what you do. You're a woman, so this is how you're supposed to think. You're a woman, so this is how you're supposed to dress. So that, even though, like I said, in Islam, it's similar, but because I felt like initially I was getting away from that, it made me feel like I was getting pulled right back into that. So the rules, okay, that was fine. But when it felt like on one side, these people don't seem like they have a lot of rules, but we do. And it wasn't just rules. It was like, even just during services, like there was a lot expected of us that had nothing to do with Torah specifically. It was just like, okay, time to get up and, go do this.
Right.
So that's when I started feeling like somewhat of a disconnect, not from the people particularly, but just in kind of the setup, I guess I would say.
Okay. So when you're talking about, let me ask you this. So when you were talking about these other things, I guess because I was there. So I guess I would say preparing food, and certain things like that. Setting tables and taking care of the Yeladim or the children, and getting them set, and doing like Torah studies with the children or what have you. That's what you're referring to.
Right.
Okay.
Things like that, and
Okay.
not that they were a problem, but that doesn't work for everybody.
Right. Got you. Yeah.
Just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I like to cook for 50 people. Like, that's just not
You like children.
right.
Right.
Right. And if you know me, no. So,
Okay.
just because I'm a woman, I didn't fit into that. So I'm like, okay, here I am in another place where I don't really fit anymore.
Okay. Cool. Itia.
I get what both of these sisters are saying, but for me, it was kind of a natural thing
Right.
because, I grew up in a big family. I went to church. I watched my mom serve in church. She still does, do a lot. So it's like, see a need, feel a need for me. So
Right.
I enjoy children. I love cooking. So that part wasn't that bad for me. I kind of enjoyed that, but it did sometimes become a bit tiring. Or maybe, when I would rather have been sitting in there listening to a lesson, I had to get up and, go, do something else.
Right.
So it was like a lot of times I felt like I was there just to be a caretaker. Like I wasn't really there listening to or hearing as many lessons or as much as the lesson as I would have, liked to.
Okay.
As far as the culture part, I missed a lot of that because I was,
Right.
preparing food. With the children, I had to peek my head in every now and then, catch a little snip. But
Right.
sometimes I just felt like I don't want to do this today, but it needed to be done. So, from the beginning and as things progressed, I can't say that it was hard for me. As far as the dressing go, I think the only thing I kind of rebelled against was wrapping my head. But I think that was the hairstylist in me. So it was like, no, I don't, I mean, that's the reason why I got an ROTC. Why can't I wear my hair the way I want?
Right.
So it's like, but I got over it. But, other than that, as far as how you dress and things of that nature, that wasn't new to me.
Right.
So, and I enjoy wearing long skirts sometimes, so it doesn't bother me. But that's how it progressed for me.
Okay. Zaya.
Ditto. No, okay. So again, I kind of same thing. It didn't feel like it was an unnatural transition. A lot of things I was already familiar with, and of course, my nature is like that community. Everybody do a little bit. Nobody has to do a lot. But after a while, it did become a lot. I remember the day Kia, it was just a text. He was like, yo, I don't feel like,
Don't tell all our secrets.
I don't feel like, I was like, we was just saying the same thing. Like, it was very much, I think it was very much something that we kind of all started feeling at the same time because it did become a lot. And I know that a lot of the other sisters felt the same way as far as missing lessons and just not being able to keep up, especially for those that wanted to learn Hebrew. And so
Right.
I was like 50-50. I definitely grew a little resentful as well, for sure.
Right.
It
Right.
started to feel like a chore. Like initially I enjoyed, like I wanted every Shabbat like to go see everybody and to go talk to everyone. And then once we started getting bigger, I started to like, it just felt like a chore. Like I didn't want to be there.
You
did do a great
And
job.
I guess I really just didn't think. Okay. I knew that it was going to be controversial. That's why I picked it, because I like to be the one to stir the pot. So I knew it was going to be that. And it's also a huge topic in this community, obviously. But again, coming from a background where I had already had an understanding about having more than one Isha, like I was ready for it. But yeah, I do remember that.
But see, that's why I think you and your Ish are like the perfect match, because he teaches culture and you've experienced so many different cultures that you give that different perspective, whereas you have a lot of women who came from a Christian background. And I think had you presented it in a way like this is accepted in a lot of cultures, and let me tell you why, it would have been a different conversation. But it was like they took it as a negative thing.
But I know why they took it that way. I don't know if you remember, but a lot of the women at the end of your lesson, a lot of the women had mentioned that they had only been spoken to about polygyny as a punishment.
Oh,
No.
yeah.
It was always like, oh, well, you can't give me a son, so I'm going to go get another wife.
I'm going to have another wife, right.
Or you're always unclean, so I need another wife. It was always given to them as a punishment. So you coming in like smiling, talking about polygyny, they're like, hold up.
and then you have me, because then you have some of the brothers that's like, well, you will have somebody to help you in the house. We can hire a maid. Like, why do we need another wife? So the conversation went a lot of places.
Oh yeah,
I'll say that.
So the lesson was fine, but they were upset because it had been brought to them as in, you're not good enough, so I need someone else.
Yeah.
So to have somebody else like, it's great. They're like, no, I am enough.
Or then the flip, why am I not enough? Right. Why do we need someone else?
And do you know how many people always ask me like, so how many wives do your husband have? I said, one.
Okay, let's talk about my son
Well,
going to my husband's work
wait.
event. But hold on, really quick, true story. And they asked my son, how many wives did daddy have? And my son said 3.
Okay.
3 baby mamas is not 3 wives, right?
Well,
that's another
They just-
conversation.
Another
Conversation. I'm not going to touch on that one.
they aren't.
Are we going to do the put away talk? No, we're not going to do that one. We're not going to do that one.
Well,
All right. Wow. It's interesting. Now I gotta ask my Isha. I'm like, what do you mean they asked you how many I have?
Oh, I've had
What'd that
plenty
mean?
people ask me
that's
that.
the first thing.
Because
that's the first thing people think about.
Right.
Oh, he can have more than one wife. That's not.
I've
I've been asked that.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
If it's not the first question, it's the third question.
It mostly came from men, not women. I would even say my brothers even asked me that question.
I will say, we actually went on a double date with Kazat and Zaya, and like a year later, we met this couple, and they said, "Oh, I thought he was the husband, and you two were the wives, and that was his son." And I was
wow.
like, "Wait a minute,
Wow.
Malak was the son, and
Wow.
you and I were the 2 Ishas."
Wow. That's
So people
interesting.
they draw these assumptions
Yeah.
really
my
quick.
God.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting. All right, let us move on to the next question. The next question is, what did you gain during the experience of being in that?
That's easy.
I think you're looking at us. You wanna go, Itia?
Yeah, go ahead first. Cynthia.
Oh wow. Put me on the spot, Kia. I gained a beautiful sisterhood. I gotta say that because, that was like one of the top things for me was, interacting and just forming relationships with other sisters. And a lot of women don't have that. So even after we stopped meeting for Shabbat and all that, as you can see, we're still here. But and just the fact of learning, I did learn a lot of stuff. And I enjoyed the feast days. I really do. I think Sakut was my favorite.
Right.
Although my first year, I was terrified. We were not prepared. We did not have everything, but you best believe every year I got better. So, I mean, we didn't even have water bottles. So I was like, oh my gosh. And then it rained. So it was like, this is overwhelming.
That was a hurricane. That wasn't just rain. That
it was
a hurricane.
horrible.
Yeah.
But I can say that everybody pulled together and worked together. If you didn't have something, somebody else had something and did not mind sharing. I mean, I even was able to give, and I didn't have that much. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I think the best thing for me was just forming, you know, family.
Okay.
I'm going to say the same thing because I think I said it once during a service, like, that's it. Y'all got me for life. Like, that's it.
Right.
Like, these are my sisters forever. Y'all are my brothers forever. I don't care where I go. I don't care what I'm doing. Like, that part. I did learn a lot. That's I would say the same thing. That's it.
Okay. It's good. Feast days. Them feast days, boy. I'm telling you.
That bonded us, those cold showers.
Yes.
Thank you.
With them babies. Woo, we did that. Yes, ladies. Same. Definitely. Family. We had so many good experiences. You know, experiences that are just priceless, laughs, cries. You know, I always, you know, there's a running joke with me. Like, I'm always kind of in my mind thinking about the apocalypse. So I'm like, who will be on my team? And yeah, so yeah, definitely family, love, lots of love. Yeah.
Wait, who's on the team?
We'll talk about it. Okay.
And I love that, like, my daughter got so many good examples of, you know, just women, like, not what she sees on TV or on YouTube or out in the streets, like, just good sisters. Like, I loved y'all from the beginning. Kia tying that head wrap that first time. That was
Are we gonna get into that? Okay.
Girl, they even said, do we need to come with our hair wraps and go to the school? We was ready.
yes.
Oh man. For me, I've had this talk, and I wanted to really meditate on my answer. But the best thing I got is exposure.
Okay.
So, I thought I could cook, but then you get around people who can, like, throw down. So then you got to step your game up.
Right.
You know, like, I've never attempted to sew in my life. I made a couple outfits.
Right.
They weren't the best, but you know, they you know, whatever.
They made the cut.
They made the cut. You know, we took some cute pictures. The people in this room, I know everybody can't see the people in this room, but, like, these are the people that I can call, and I know they are coming, even when I can't call, like, my blood family. You know, I remember a pipe burst, and my husband, I think he was deployed, and I'm like, Itty, where's your Isha? I need somebody to stop this water. I didn't even know how many days the water was running. And Zocane came straight over, like, oh, I got you, sis, don't worry about it. You know, like, my daughter's godparents are in this room. You know, my children's other mother are in this room.
Right.
You know, my Capricorn sis for life is in this room. So, you know, and I am a woman who, transparency, I struggle with relationships with females.
Okay.
So to get to a point where I have people that don't pass judgment on me for being me, that was a big thing. So those are some of my good takeaways.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds pretty good, man. That's enjoyable. I'm glad. I would say this for this core group right here. Yes, and you know we express it to each other throughout the weeks. If anybody needs anything from either one of us or whatever, most of the time we are there. Unless, you know, something's like we're out of town or something and we can't help out or what have you. But most of the time, you know, they're there. Most of the time, y'all are there. No matter what the situation may be, you know, we probably can call each other, you know, 2-3 o'clock in the morning and get an answer. Especially I know Nigeria because she's up.
She don't sleep.
I'm always up.
She don't sleep.
Jira's always up. But anybody, you know, if you have any issue, especially with Jira, especially at any time like that, yeah, Yeah, she's up. So
Oh, I want to add one thing.
go ahead,
So I
sis.
had a conversation at work yesterday, and somebody I work with made a comment. Her friend asked her how her husband was doing, and she was so offended. And I said, "Why?" I was like, you couldn't roll in my group. And then I thought about the day Jira texted me and said, "Sis, I just got home and my door was open." And I said, "Hold
thinking
up,
about
all y'all need to get to Newport News and go see why her door was open."
Right.
And it wasn't even a thought like, "Oh, girl, I'm not sending my husband over there." It was like, "Boy,
Right.
get up, get shoes on, like all y'all get together, go check it out for her." But that piece, I will say, is a blessing because it's no jealousy, it's no judgment. It's literally like, these are my brothers and my sisters.
Right.
Okay, cool. All right, so we're going to move on to the next question. The next question is, from your perspective, how were societal issues handled that may have gained awareness during that time?
Who came up with that?
You
That's Malak, yeah.
Sounds like a
you know that's a Malak question. You already
Check
know
out them
that.
SAT words in it. Read that one more time.
That is definitely Malak, yeah.
Yeah, I would say this. Malak, you want to
Explain.
I need you
explain it
to
to them.
ask that in a different way.
Yeah.
So when I ask that question, what I'm asking you is, like, different settings or different stage settings outside of the assembly would come up, right? So, like, brothers that was teachers, right, we would have different viewpoints on, I'm gonna say, like, a social standing in the community, an economic standing in the community, or just the community involvement and or building at that time. Like, from your perspective, right, how did we address that? How did we, if we addressed it at all? Because, like, you got what's going on in the camp, and then you got what's happening on Monday.
Right.
Okay, I'll take that one. I would say, from my experience, I only witnessed that one time, when you're truly talking about a community outside the doors of COI. And we went to DC and we did Feed the Homeless.
Yeah.
And I would say that's probably the only thing that I personally experienced, truly going into the community, because it really it's us and then it's them. So we didn't really do too much in the community that I can speak on. And if I forgot something, y'all please correct me. But that's the only thing I can think of.
Okay. So you're saying that it could have been a process of us going out into the community more without having a Sabbath service, or going outside of doing certain things like feeding the homeless, having food drives, or even I think you did a school drive, right? I think
Yeah, but
we
that
did
was still
later
for
on.
us. Like,
Well,
that
yeah, it was
wasn't-
for us, right? But you still did the hair thing.
I
for
did.
the sisters,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And that was nice.
Right.
Oh, and the brothers did do the walk at Mount Trashmore. I
Yeah.
forgot that one.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah.
But it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Too many things
Okay.
that we even, from my perspective, considered something that we needed to be involved in.
Okay.
It
Right.
was like, oh, that ain't our business.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You know.
No, I'm gonna say I agree. I can't think of anything else that we did outside of.
Okay.
Oh no! Didn't you guys do like going to the jails or something?
No, we was gonna start it, but we never.
We were gonna start it, but we didn't.
Yeah, we didn't.
I don't believe that we got.
Yeah.
I just remember the guy coming to the assembly that time.
Yeah. And that was interesting. Itia?
I could say I agree with them. It was not a lot. I think it was a lot of discussion about doing some things, but it never, actually happened.
Okay. Same.
Yeah, I think we were kind of in our own little bubble.
Okay.
Yeah, not
Okay.
much that I remember. But I mean, that felt like at the time enough.
Okay. So at this point where we're at now with that question, do you think it should have been more done? Or more
I think
going out
more
with the
could
people?
have been done. I
Okay.
think more could have been done, but there was a lot of growth happening for us too.
Yeah.
So we were in the process of bringing more people in.
Right.
We were still a very small community, just trying to organize and be consistent. And there was a lot of consistency. Like, for a long time, I remember we went from one building to the next building.
Right.
and, cut an album. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we did a lot within
Yeah.
our bubble. And then,
Yeah.
like, of course, like I said, there was some growth. So I think that probably would have been the best time to start doing that. We had more resources and more people able to contribute to that.
Right. Okay. All right. Maureen?
It's still along the lines of the question. It's like, what did you personally get? What was your takeaway from, coming to the assembly, being a part of the assembly? What was your personal takeaway as far as in your daily interaction with other people?
Did it make you handle people differently than you used to handle them, or handle a situation that may have came up?
Absolutely. I mean, but I think that's just natural anyway, regardless of, whatever situation you're in. It may have triggered some lessons in how you're dealing with people and how you're communicating with people. Of course, with new relationships having been formed, you start learning more about yourself through reflections of those relationships that you're building. So, I mean, there was growth, period. I think there was a tremendous amount of growth on my part. I definitely see where it helped me realize that something that I've always known, everything is real.
Okay.
Everything is real.
Right.
You're going to be able to draw from everything as long as you feel aligned. You can pull from almost anything in your experience. That's what you're here to do.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's my go.
Your takeaway. He was saying your personal takeaway.
Oh, wow. I don't know. You got to come back to me on that one.
Okay. I would say that I did. I feel like I treated situations differently. I dealt with conflict differently, like after the Torah lessons. And then I also would notice, like, the way other people interacted, how, this situation may not have happened if they did this. Like, it was easier to point out different things just seeing other people's interactions. So my interactions with people changed as well.
Okay. Kia?
I established more boundaries. I feel like I got to a point where I wanted to be everything for everybody, kind of lost myself in the process. And I learned to create those healthy balances, those healthy boundaries to say, okay, all right, you got this issue, but you had this same issue last week. How we going to solve it this time? As opposed to, let me keep just helping and helping. No, we got to come up with a solution. We need some type of resolve.
Right.
So learning to establish those boundaries was very healthy for me personally. So that's a good takeaway.
Okay. Cool. Adon?
So, like, just following on the statements, right? So, like, earlier, y'all talked about, like, being contained to just food and children, right? But the reason why I asked that question the way that I did, because y'all got a lot of skill sets. Right?
Well, I was going to say, not to cut you off, but to cut you off, as my Ish would say. It wasn't just food and children. It was also organizing.
Organizing,
It was
right.
cleanup,
Decorating.
decorating.
Days.
It was a lot more than just food and children.
Agreed. So, the point of that, or really to drive it home, is that y'all got a lot of skill sets that are oftentimes suppressed within the assembly, right? So, one thing is that, like, when you look at trends of organizations, right? Women have an enhanced value that they bring to growing organizations simply because y'all just create stuff, right? So, like Maisha, like, she's just a plug. She the connect. You can hear me? Okay. No, like, Kia's a plug. Like, she plug everywhere. You understand what I'm saying? And, like, that's one thing, like, when we met, I was like, dang, man, this girl know everybody. You know what I'm saying? And I joke her all the time. I'm like, everybody your damn cousin. You know what I'm saying?
They are.
In Hampton Roads. But to the point, right? Do you think we could have did more
to bring out those skill sets that you have, right? As opposed to putting you in a box, that kind of comes with attaching yourself to the paradigm, right? Because anything that's consistent, like that's what they do, right? And if you've ever led people before, right, a good thing is to draw out and lift up the things that they do, right? Because you get that return, right? Or you get that loyalty, you get that buy-in from the people that you're dealing with. So that's what drove that question.
Well, absolutely. If there had been some type of process for people that would maybe outline. So tell us a little bit about yourself outside of what you, because the first question you're asked is, who do you know yourself to be?
Yeah.
Oh, is that the question?
Yes.
That's
What's
the
your
first
name
question.
and who
What's
do
your
you know
name
yourself
and
to
who do
be?
you know yourself to be? You
Right.
know what I'm saying? And it's almost a trick question if you
Right.
think about it.
Especially
Oh,
when
it
you
was
first
no
get
trick
there.
question for me.
So like it definitely probably would have been a better idea possibly to have better processes in place, especially if you're establishing an organization that intends to do community service,
Right.
that intends to go out and grow and connect with other organizations and establish, some type of currency, whether it be within the community or just credit to, operate in that type of, way. So yeah, definitely would have worked out better. But hindsight. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And I know I'm not the only one, but when you go back and you tell your family, this is now what I am a part of. The first thing that most people say is, "Oh my gosh, she's in a cult. He's in a cult. Oh my
Absolutely.
God, like they got you doing all this crazy stuff." I think for me, being in a community and getting a better light shined on the Hebrew walk is definitely something that's needed, because you go places and you say Hebrew and it's like, oh my gosh, y'all the people that just scream at people all day. And it's like, no, we don't.
Right.
Don't put us in a box.
Right.
For me now, with some experiences that I'm having with different, religious groups, and you see them and you see how willing they are to have conversations, participate in the community, do things for each other, it's a lot different. It's like I would have loved to have seen that. Like that would have had a lasting effect on me personally.
Okay.
And I feel like that was missing.
Okay. Cool. All right. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Because that's going to lead us into the next question, basically. And the next question is, if there was anything you could improve during that time, what would it be?
I don't think we have enough time for that. No.
What would it be? Because if we take your example of certain things that didn't happen, could you have stepped in and took hold of the mantle and said, let's do this?
I tried a lot of stuff.
Okay.
And a lot of stuff got shut down. One thing, going back to being a woman in this walk, what I learned, and I'm not bashing anybody, let me say that.
This is my personal
This
opinion.
is my personal opinion. Being a female trying to articulate or voice certain things that you have knowledge of, not in a way that's belittling, not in a way that's condescending, but sometimes men take it as, be quiet,
Okay.
stay in your place. We would have these conversations about buying buildings. And if I make a comment like, who has the credit score? Where's the down payment coming from?
Right.
It's like, oh, sister, you don't believe in the creator. No, I do. But this money not going to fall off this tree. Like, let's have a plan. Let's be realistic. We are not in these ancient days where, we about to go sell a donkey. We have to have cash money. So when you say these things, the conversations start to get shorter and shorter and shorter to a point where you feel like, me personally, I wasn't welcome. So what's the point of me coming to these conversations about building if what I'm saying is not valid and nobody's receiving it. Let me not say nobody, because it was people that were.
Right.
But for the masses, I felt like we didn't move because we didn't really have a plan.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Y'all might want to skip me for a moment.
No, we don't want to skip you.
Okay, so I agree with what you just said, but kind of like branching off from what you said, once we started growing and there were so many of us, our conversations really changed. And I know there were points where we would have discussions on certain topics, and prior I would always talk and give my little 2 cents about whatever, and speak about what I thought. But once we got bigger, I stopped because it might have been something that I didn't agree with or that I knew a different way, but I didn't want to be that argumentative woman. I didn't want to be her. So I just wouldn't say anything.
Okay.
So once we got bigger and there were so many other people that didn't necessarily think or speak or act like we did prior, it was I don't know how you would change that though. Because once you get bigger, you can't really control that. You're going to have different people from different places. So,
Right.
But that was one thing for me that changed a lot. Like when it got to the point where I just wasn't really saying too much.
Yeah,
So-
because it was a point where it was a space to learn. It was a space to say, I don't really understand that. Can you break that down? And they would.
Right.
And then we got to a point where it was like, well, if you don't already understand this and believe
Right.
it the way I believe it, something's wrong with you. And I'm a person, I struggle with learning another language. You can give me any book, any hooked on phonics, anything you can think of, and I'm not going to get it. Like, I can't even learn Spanish. I can't roll my tongue. I can't do anything. So when we would have conversations, it went from, okay, the scripture says X, Y, and Z to, that's not how it reads in Hebrew. And if you don't know Hebrew, you shouldn't even be talking about it. Well, brother, I don't know Hebrew. I barely learned the alphabet. Like, let's start there. And I only got that from the hip hop song on YouTube. But, it's like we got to this point where opinions were no longer valid if we didn't think the way the majority was thinking.
Right. Right. And I want to touch on what y'all was saying, because at a time it was like so a lot of the people that was coming in, they already said to themselves that they was already learned.
They grew up in it.
Right.
Right.
Certain things like that. So, I mean, I can get exactly what y'all young ladies are saying about that situation, because, and then to the point of not speaking up, I would say Jira speak up, because we always wanted you to speak up, because we understood that, Jira study. She
know
really
Hebrew.
goes in.
She knows
She knows
it.
this stuff. She took the time out to really go in and study. And we will always look to you to. Right. And that's the point. You may not been in the kitchen a lot, but you could have did what you needed to do inside the Knesset for, speaking up, especially for the other young ladies in there.
Well, I would say, I don't know if y'all remember that. I think it might have been like a Unity Shabbat. Someone did a lesson, or I don't want to call it a lesson. They got up and started talking about the independent woman. And I was like, oh, okay. Now, y'all know I had a lot to say. I said not one word through the whole thing, because I'm like, if I stand up and say what I think, no.
Right.
That would not.
That you wouldn't have had the same understanding they had.
Yeah, no.
Right.
But
Because you're not married. So
Right.
you have to be independent. So you have to do certain things.
right.
Gotcha.
So I already felt like, not from you guys, but I already felt like I was looked at differently.
Right.
So it was like, if I said it anyway, they'd be like, see, that's why she's single.
Let me say, Jira, you were absolutely looked at differently, because let a man come in there. We were all like, don't look at that one. You better go outside. Not that. She was very protected.
Right. Yeah, she was.
Oh, I remember a couple Shabbats.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
But that was from you guys. Like, once we got other people, it was different.
Right. Itia, you got anything on that?
I was doing what I usually do.
And I can confess to that, because I know she loved children, so she did a lot with the children. So and she would go out her way to do it, man. I'd be at the store buying stuff
Seemed like
for
to
the
me
for the children inside there.
that it was just too many personal opinions being thrown in there. And the organization that we had at first just was tainted. So it was like, okay, I'm going to just sit back and see what happened, because if we're going to grow, we have to accept, people for who they are. But it just seemed more of, I don't know, it just seemed to get more disorganized and more too much distraction on little silly things versus the things that we should have been concentrating on.
Or doing the things that we were normally doing.
Right.
Right. So when we got to the point where we were having meetings about what kind of food we could bring to Shabbat, like, you can't bring anything that you got to warm up. It needs to be cold. Like, having whole meetings about that versus having a meeting about feeding the homeless. Like,
Or even
was
where
just
Kia
like-
was coming from, it's like, okay, she know her stuff. Like my brother said over there, she the plug. I mean, you
Right.
the plug in your own way, Zaya the plug in her way. We all are. But it's like, if she knows what she's talking about, it's worth listening to.
Right.
But it was like, I just felt like, I know we always tried to operate as a whole, but to me, there's always still should be levels. So it was like, those that were up here should have just, probably should have made decisions and talked it over with the group, because that's how it originated. So it was like, like a board almost. So it's like, if you're asking everybody, like, what you think, you're never going to come to an agreement. Yes.
So would you say that based on the integration, because really I kind of understand where you guys are coming from, it's an integration of a whole nother group. So would you say that the leadership of our original group kind of was trying to, how can I say, in accepting the other group, we kind of lost some of ourselves?
Yes.
Very much so.
It didn't seem COI anymore.
Looks like Kia has something she wants to say, so I'm gonna give her back the mic. Say what you say. How
Okay. You want me to say it how I say it?
Yeah, how you say.
Okay. Two parts. It's no secret. We were talking about the other group, right? It was supposed to be all COY. And even having this conversation to say the other group shows how much division it was. For me, being somebody that was very new to the walk, I was not raised in this way. I wasn't raised in a way that was similar to this way. I wasn't exposed to anything similar. I would have loved for someone who was, quote unquote, born in this way to say, hey, let's talk. Let me take you under my wing. Let me show you what I've learned. Tell me what you know, and let's build upon that. And it wasn't that. It very much came in with so much judgment and force to be like, you're doing X, Y, and Z wrong. You need to stop doing it.
It was all don'ts.
Right. And for me, it was like, well, hold on now. Well, why is, and I'm that one, why is your way the right way? We've been doing this all this time, and we have all these mores. You would have thought somebody would have said something, but it was like instantaneous to be, no, your way is the wrong way. Like, there was no compromise. I know people hate that word. There was no compromise to say, let's do what we can to get on the same page, to get the same foundation, because it got to the point where we started fussing over everything.
Oh, God.
oh, you can't burn this. Oh, well, why you in there cutting? Like, it was like tit for tat.
Tit for tat.
And it was like, I know, and I tell everybody, Maish was tired of hearing me talk. It was like, oh my God, I got to hear this another week. Like, I just, and we got to a point where we started fighting. And that was a problem for me because I started taking stuff home. Like, it wasn't staying there. And, we had to work through that. Like, he had to really be like, I don't like the way you're talking to me. You got to give me time. We can have this conversation tomorrow. We had to get to a place because I felt like I got to get this off my chest because I'm so frustrated. And this is no longer fun for me. This is no longer exciting for me. This is too much for me. So that's where that resentment started to come in. I mean, just simple stuff. We started arguing about when we are supposed to iron our clothes. Like, oh, you can't cut your light on, but you're starting your car and your car has power. And it was like,
Right.
Are we really doing this?
Right.
Like, it's too much. And for me, disclaimer, I felt like it was a financial thing to say, we need to afford this building that we're in. We need more people to come in with their contributions so the bills are getting paid and it's not so heavy on certain families and not other families that it was like, we just started taking anything. Like, even stuff that I felt like we believe, yeah, we know that ain't right, but we gonna deal with it because, they donate and they making a contribution. And to me, that was wrong.
Okay. So you're saying a lot of the issues will come with misunderstanding each other's group, because we understand that certain Israelites, they have different groups. Some believe certain things and some camps believe other things. And I would say that a lot of the elders and the leadership should have did a better job at bringing the people together instead of just letting it go splat.
Just like bringing everybody together all at once.
Right. Because and what happens is, and like y'all was saying, yes, you do lose a certain part of you or who you used to be, because COY was COY. We moved how we moved. Me personally, as being in this walk, I didn't see a group that moved like we did. Nobody moved like we did. Now, when you're bringing other groups in, it's gonna be some friction somewhere. But I think to a degree, it should be the elders and, like I said, the leadership trying to bring the people together. It has to be. Hold up, wait. We just can't stop doing what we do. I get what you're saying, but if everybody else is searching for the same creator we're searching for, it has to be a breaking ground for somebody. Somebody has to step in and say, hold up, no, we're not going to do this and we're not going to do that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say it was everybody.
Right.
That,
exactly.
because I love
Right,
my
right.
ET. ET is my girl. But it was definitely a thing that I felt like could have been resolved with leadership.
Right.
Like, for us to voice our opinions. And I know one time we actually did all come together. And I'm typically the outspoken one. I struggle biting my tongue sometimes. And, I said some things.
Right.
And again, I didn't feel like I was heard. It was
Right.
kind of like, oh, here go Kia, and it was like, you know what? I'm going to stop talking. I'm not going to say anything else. And then what did we do? We started texting. So then it was like,
Right.
why your head always down? Because I'm texting Jira. Because y'all got me upset again.
Right.
I mean, that's the reality. We got a group text and we all got attitudes and ready to go home.
Right.
I wasn't there when the integration was full on, but I will say that we can integrate. We integrated them feast days.
Facts.
So,
We did.
We did great.
Yes.
At those feast days.
Yeah.
Of course, there's always something when you're bringing a bunch of groups of people together, and it's going to be a little bit of riff or,
Right.
little hiccup here and there, but those things went pretty smooth.
Yeah.
So I think what you guys are describing is a situation where you have people who need to be more right. In a group setting where, we're talking about several different perspectives of what the
Right.
right is.
Right.
And you find that in all religious. So you go back to that, okay, we're back to dealing with these religious tenets. This is how it was done. This is how it should be done. Who said that? And how did you get that from that? And where did you get this information? And we're just different. It's like the times are different right now. So having a good understanding and being able to understand, like, okay, there are going to naturally be adjustments because we're just not experiencing those same things that we're reading about. And we also are reading stories that people told from their perspective.
Right.
So.
Okay. You got something?
You're welcome.
Okay. Cool.
I have to agree with Zaya. We did fellowship and we came together with several different groups and individuals and we did well. But like in any situation, sometimes you might not just, get it with that one. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what it was.
The point that you brought up, Kia, about it being financial, that's like a really, really important aspect, right? Because like that's like a universal thing, right? Whenever you're doing something because of money, a lot of times it can kind of
pull it out,
make you do it in a way that you might not be completely in alignment with what works. And yeah, so.
I say something about that. When that started being more, not saying, oh Lord, how can I say it? I just felt like some people felt like, oh, why we got, it was like, oh, now we acting like this and we acting like that. It's like, well, how do you expect your organization to keep moving if you don't contribute? So it's like, and it wasn't like it was made like a chore or like we had to. But it was just like, I felt like some people was like, why are they asking for money, or, why they asking, like, if you're here, then why not? You're getting fed. So it was like.
And that came out of house budgets.
I mean, fed, the lights
and it was like,
on.
I can't do this. But now me coming from, and I'm like you said, disclaimer, but from church, it wasn't a problem for me to give an offering to, talk about tithing and, stuff like that. But if all of that is going back into what you're a part of, then why is it a problem?
Right.
Just like your household, you give into your household so they can keep functioning. So it wasn't like, it's like, if you're giving this is what we want you to be. If you're giving this amount, this is what we want you to be. It's just like, what can you do? And that's what it is. It wasn't like a big thing. I mean, I remember the brothers even forgetting to even go check the box.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like that was something that they, homed in on.
Yeah. When we had the money box.
Right.
Yeah. And, some weeks it wasn't checked. You could come back next Sabbath day and lift it up. The money still sitting inside there. So it wasn't like we constantly checked it to see who put it in there or see who was running to the box or stuff like that. It wasn't like that. But I get it, especially with the finances. You have to have those things, especially if you have a building and you have lights on and water on. These things constantly has to be paid. Somebody has to pay it. And, and I'm pretty sure a lot of these brothers in here and sisters in here, it came directly out of their account sometimes, and and I would like to say I'm glad they had it and was able to give it like that, because some people just didn't have it, and we got it, and we understood that some people just didn't have it. So with them making that contribution to those things, it was a place in their heart to say, no, I have to do this. I don't take it any other kind of way. I just know that within their heart, it has to be done and it has to be portrayed. It's like how I understand things now in anything I deal with. I don't expect anything from anybody. Like, my Isha, she takes care of certain bills, but I don't expect her to take care of the bill. Because if it don't get paid, guess who gonna go pay it? Right, me. So I'm gonna have to bring it. I'm gonna have to bring it out and pay it. Especially if they don't pay it. So I don't put no expectation on it. Then I'm not in a state of, man, you should have paid, you should have did, because now you got to mess with your psyche or your mental and say, hold up, why she didn't pay it? Or now I'm mad. No, I ain't no need her because I don't expect her to pay it. But I think, and that's where I think a lot of the brothers, their hearts was at, and it was like, yo, we just gotta pay it. Now, even if we had to come together and say, hey, you got 50, you got 50, you got 50, okay, well, we got all these 50s, we can get it paid, and that's, sometimes I'm pretty sure it happened like that. So, but okay, great. So, moving on to the next question. This is gonna be kind of, I ain't gonna say difficult for me to ask because I know y'all sisters are in a different place of where y'all was at maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna ask from your perspective of your understanding today. What wisdom would you give to another woman who shares the same experience of being an Israelite or a young lady coming into being a Hebrew Israelite?
Anybody want to go first? Okay, I would say.
Keep trying.
What wisdom now? Wisdom.
He said wisdom.
Wisdom.
Don't say that
That's,
crazy.
I was about to say.
wisdom. Your wisdom, because I'm pretty sure, like I say, y'all sisters, y'all have y'all wisdom, and sometimes us brothers, we don't have the wisdom as a young lady talking to another young lady coming into this walk, because you're gonna get certain things that I'm gonna say, well, this is what this is, and if you even go to another camp, theirs gonna be totally different than what we understand.
So what I'm about to say is along those lines.
Okay.
I don't know if this is exactly what you're looking for, but I would say read and learn it on your own
Okay.
first. I mean, not you have to read the whole Bible before you join an assembly or anything like that, but make sure you're reading for yourself and learning for yourself. And then, yes, of course, you're listening to lessons and you're hearing a moray teach, and you may get like a different perspective on it. But don't alter your perspective just because someone else says it a different way.
Okay.
Like, look into it and make sure that is how you're understanding it.
Okay.
Because there's going to be a lot of different perspectives. Different camps teach different ways. Different people within one camp will understand something differently. Understand it for yourself and don't just follow anybody.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Why y'all let her go first?
We called you.
I wasn't ready. Oh, I was supposed to be going.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll go. I'll add a little bit more to what you said.
Okay.
What I would have told myself
Okay. That's good.
8-9 years ago, in what I would tell to a young lady would be not to lose yourself.
Okay.
It's
good.
so easy to get sucked up trying to mimic what you see, trying to create a level of perfection that truly doesn't exist.
Okay.
Yes, learn, read it for yourself to the best of your ability. Don't beat yourself up if you can't learn Hebrew.
That's right.
But don't lose yourself in the process.
Okay.
Try things, but remain true to who you are.
Okay. Okay.
I should have went because you took mine. But I agree with both of you. My first thought was don't lose yourself. And also, like you said, to read, because anybody can tell you anything. So, and if it doesn't resonate with, who you are, then you shouldn't feel bad if you don't agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
But also, and this is a lesson that was taught, and I knew that, like I said, I knew it, but the way it was taught, as far as, and it's always put out there as like, you feel like you have to be submissive, but being submissive is not a weak thing.
Right.
You have to be very strong, and it's not necessarily what an individual may look at as the word submissive being. You have to submit to a lot of things, not just your ish or what they may say or what they're teaching. So it takes a strong woman to be a submissive woman. That's all I'm gonna say. Look up the word and
Okay.
look it up.
I would say just don't be afraid to hear what everyone has to say, and trust your intuition on what feels the most aligned for you. And if it doesn't make sense, make sure that you seek counsel, but don't necessarily get caught up in seeking counsel so much that you forget to, like you said, process and do a little bit of research on your own, and just think about who you are as a person, like moving forward, and what it is that you want to represent. But just don't be afraid to be open to other things.
Right. Okay. All right.
I love that you said don't lose yourself, though, because you put on that Israelite woman costume and you feel like you have to... The costume.
Yes.
You have to look like every other woman in there. You have to speak like them. You have to think like them. You will lose your mind.
Can we talk about that? Is that a
There you go.
question?
Please make it a question.
It's not a question, but I do. What I'm about to say has something to do with what she just said. Just remember, you all, as women, if there is any women watching this, any women that's in the Hebrew walk, and any woman thinking about coming in this direction, always remember you have a voice, and you are, what's the word I want to look for? You are a sovereign soul. You are a sovereign soul. You are made in the image and the likeness of the Creator. And remember that even though whether you're coming in as single woman or whether you're coming with an ish, you still have your own essence and things to bring to the table. So even though you may be coming in, if you come in, like I said, with a husband, remember you're two unique individual souls coming together to make a whole. So you always need to keep that in mind. Always keep that in mind and keep that in the utmost importance, because you can't lose yourself in this walk.
Right.
As sisters here attribute to. So that's all I got.
Right. Which is interesting because it is a duality thing. Like we like this podcast is called The Fourth Principle. You can find yourself in this walk, and you can lose yourself in this walk. Fourth principle, right? So with that being said, you almost come to the balance stage of being who you are, what you know yourself to be, and those things. It's a balance. So sometimes you can know yourself, and sometimes you can lose yourself.
We have a guest in the audience. Did you have any questions, sir? You being quiet. I seen you though.
I'll ask after.
Okay.
Yeah. Most of the time he asks things after the fact. A lot of things. Sometimes when we sitting here doing our thing, but
Can we
I know
touch
you
on the
want to.
sisterhood?
I know you want to touch on the sisterhood.
Yes, I do.
Let it be known that we're not here to bash people.
Why
So
you say that to me though? See what I mean? I'm
Well-
outspoken and I'm told
well,
not to bash
no.
anyone.
I'm not telling you not to, but you can do whatever you want. I'm just telling you, we're not here to bash people. I understand because I talk to you. We talk. We all talk.
We all talk.
We all talk. So we know what's being said and what really take us to this level.
Yeah. So you
Go
said
ahead,
we
sis.
talk. I don't want to make it seem like we talk about people.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
put
No,
that
no.
out there. We
Right.
ain't talk about nobody.
Right. Go ahead.
Who ringing?
Is that me?
That's me. Sorry.
You got your
You know your
watch.
watch?
It's not connected to the phone.
Take it out. Take it out there. Close the door.
Security said take it out.
Sorry.
I need
Hang it on the
Sandman.
banister and just
Hey.
close the door.
So this is what I would say about the sisterhood, right? If done right, it can be a beautiful thing.
Yes.
It can be a beautiful
Facts.
thing. I think for me, disclaimer, for me, I walked in with a rain cloud over my head because
Okay.
of who I was attached to.
Okay.
I remember being comments like, "Why are you talking to her? She not even Hebrew," just certain judgment that was passed on me from the door. You
Okay.
know, people not really taking the time to get to know me, not even speaking to me. I'll never forget, maybe my second Shabbat, it was my first one. Oh, you not making his plate? And I'm like, I don't even know what y'all cooked, and y'all want me to make a plate? Like,
Right.
was I supposed to bring it with me? Like, it was so many things that I felt like had my introduction been as warm and receiving as others, my journey would have been different.
Right. Gotcha.
I was deemed very rebellious. You know,
Right.
I didn't want to wrap my hair. I spent a lot of money at the Dominicans to get my blowouts. And it was like, you know, the sister don't got her head wrapped, X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But I will say, when I made the decision to wrap my hair, these women in here were like, what? Girl, come on. I got all this cloth in this bag. Like, what color you want?
Right.
Like, and they took me and they showed me, right?
Right.
Fast forward, wrapping my hair made my edges fall out real bad. I started losing my hair. So I stopped wrapping my hair, and it was, oh, it must be issues going on. She's not wrapping her hair. Had nothing to do with my relationship. I was losing my hair.
Right.
But again, passing that judgment so quickly, you know, that model of perfection that people expect you to have, especially being attached to a moire, you know, I always consider myself to be a very polished woman
Right.
in most settings.
Right.
But for me, it was like I was looked, in my interpretation, not saying anybody said this, I was looked at like I was the outsider
Okay.
for a long time.
Okay.
So when I finally was accepted, it felt good. You know, we had got to a place where it did start to feel good, where I started to enjoy coming. I enjoyed the feast days. I enjoyed Sukkot. But then it was like a switch went off. And then for whatever reason, you know, with the sisterhood, it was like internally it was an attack amongst all of us. Not just me. It was like darts thrown at each other. Like, I didn't like what she said. So instead of going to her, I'm going to try to recruit all the other sisters
Right.
to not like this person. You know,
Right.
very, very high schoolish, very middle schoolish. And again, like I said, I struggle with female relationships. So for me, the Capricorn in me is like, I'm going to just cut y'all all off. I don't care. Like,
Right. Right.
whatever. My husband, my best friend. And I had to work through that, you know. I know a couple of women, you know, we had to sit down. We had we had to sit down. We had to just scream and get it out. And then we moved on and we were good. And it was like,
Right.
I guess you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, and I think that was the realness too. Like, once we got past all of the facade and we took the mask off, and it was like, no, I get to see the real you, and I love the real you.
Right.
I don't love the, oh, I only listen to Shabbat music you. I love the real you. Like, let's cut up. Like, let's have a good time. Yes, we want to praise and sing our Shabbat songs, but you know, sometimes I want to listen to some Biggie. You know,
Right.
like, don't judge me because I'm a Biggie fan.
Right.
I was gonna say Lil' Kim, but I was trying to not go there. But
Right.
you know, we vibe.
Right.
So and that's my thing. Like, we were people before we came in this walk, and we didn't stop being who we were because we put skirts on instead of our pants.
Right. Got you.
Speaking of skirts,
Where's your skirt?
that's another thing. There are benefits to having your skin exposed to the sun. Partially, there are benefits to wearing pants sometimes, but I understand that I could argue on both sides. So,
Right.
but like, it's you're into fashion.
Yes.
Why is you saying am I?
It's like she's the only one that doesn't know.
Fashionable.
no.
No, ma'am. You get dressed to go to the mailbox.
I just said that.
Yeah, I think the losing yourself part too. I think that's part of the challenge, is like immediately changing those things if you're not used to it. It might have been easier for some people, but I think for a new person, just do it when you're ready.
Ooh, say that again.
Do it when you're ready.
Y'all should put that
When
in
you're
words on the screen.
Yeah.
Right.
you're
Well, you
ready.
know, it's kind of interesting when you pointed out the, you know, are you gonna fix your Isha plate, or your Isha plate? Sorry, your Isha plate. I can see the difference in when I came in. I think I was here. Me and Itya was here maybe about 2 years before you came in. I think.
It wasn't that long.
It wasn't.
No, because you were there the first. You was there the first Passover that I went to. Actually,
Yeah.
you were there. You just wasn't integrated in, right? Which is interesting because when she first
there at all.
when she first came, she sat with me at the dinner table. The sisters, they fixed our plates. They didn't say anything to her about fixing the plate.
Fix me no place.
You outside of that, there is this: women are supposed to do this, that, and the other. Inside of the bubble, it's even more so. It's like double. But coming in as a woman who is coming in with an ish who is a rank, like a high, person. Right? He's something. We're thinking, okay, well she already know the deal. So
you came in on your first day as like the first lady of the church, and you had no clue.
I didn't even know. He supposed to be wearing a Sunday hat. I didn't know. I was supposed to have white shoes on. Nobody told me anything.
White shoes.
I can say, Kia, for me, you just look like you did not want to be bothered.
I didn't.
So me being who I am, I was like, I'm gonna get that sister her space.
Well, by the
Right.
time I had met you, I had already went through this. So
Right.
then I was already like, they don't like me. Like, I don't know if this is going to work.
we didn't think you would last.
I know.
And
And look at us now.
Man,
We definitely
That is-
didn't think
man,
you would
that
last
is-
because
1,000
not
years
because
later.
of who you were, but because it was like she doesn't seem like you didn't seem weak. So it was
Right.
like you weren't. Let me hurry up and be this Hebrew person. Let me hurry up and be like this and switch it up. A lot of women that come into this, come through this process, they start switching gears almost immediately.
Right.
And a lot of it is because they're coming in through a man.
Right.
Right.
So there's like, okay, I want to keep this man.
So I'm going to do
So let
these
me do what I gotta
things.
do
Right.
to keep this man. So he said, I gotta wear dresses. I gotta wear. All right. So you start going to the women like, what do I gotta do to be this good person, to be this good wife, so I can keep this man, so he don't want a second wife,
Yeah.
And you weren't like that. So
and
we
I
was like,
wasn't.
yeah, she ain't going for the okie doke.
You were holding on to you.
But
She
I
not
tried
going
to
to
hold
go.
on to me, and then I will add this: when it was announced that I was pregnant, because this is another layer to it, right? It was like, oh, she here to stay, huh? Like she's pregnant. What in the world is going on? And again, I had those that were like, sis, I got you. Don't worry about it. And it was a lot of those who couldn't believe it. I wrote, you pregnant by him? Like, no, who else I'm pregnant by? Like, come on now. That was a dumb question. But again, it's a lot of hurtful things that happened in the beginning that I had to heal from to start to build that sisterhood. Because like you said, I walked in with people feeling like she ain't gonna last. Like nobody really gave me a chance. Nobody really was like, oh, this is beautiful. This is gonna go somewhere, And that was hard. That was a hard experience. So it was hard to see other people be so welcomed because it was like I didn't get that. Like everybody else come in and, I remember one sister had pants on. Oh, it's okay. You can wear your pants. And I'm
That
like,
was me.
it wasn't you. She actually stopped coming like after week 3. I don't remember her name.
She was like, because I'm wearing my pants.
I'm wearing my pants. And for me, it was like, yeah, you need to swap out every pair of pants with a skirt in your closet. And I had a lot of pants. So
I replaced all the dresses.
The brother said he replaced those.
he did.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
All of them.
He did.
Of course you did.
See, I came in
ain't
like
nothing wrong with
looking
that.
and searching, so I was just happy. I was showing up with my jeans on every Shabbat, and Zaya was like, "Has anybody told you about the dress code?" I was like, "There's a dress code." I didn't
They
even
show you the
notice.
handbook.
Yeah, she gave it to me. I didn't even know there was. I was completely oblivious. I didn't even notice all these women have on skirts and hair wraps, but me. I'm just showing up in my jeans, like without a problem.
On this note right here, what I'll say is like to any women that's listening or brothers or whatever, like when initially, like when I was going that hard, like hey look, get the pants out of here, like I was still learning too, right, and I was doing the best that I could do, even though it was quite abrasive. You know what I'm saying? And I'll admit that it was abrasive. You know what I'm saying? Which, as my understanding in the the scriptures, if you will, if you want to say that, It didn't call for all of that.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? So like I think like you understand it now. Yeah, I understand it now. Understanding it now, it's like, it all of that wasn't needed. Right? We didn't have to go haywire on let's clean the whole wardrobe out. Right? Wrap your head skin tight. You know what I mean? Because, at the end of the day, that had no bearing on who she is as a person.
Yep, and what she was going to learn,
Right?
What she was gonna,
which
gain,
I'm cool. I'm proud to say she don't dress like none of that now, and there's been more value added to my household, more than ever. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? No, I'm just no shade. I'm just saying, like I like the polished look. It does well for us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We can go meet anybody, which, when I look at somebody and like Abraham or something like that, he met everybody, right. Anybody. You don't ever hear about how these women dressed in the scriptures.
Yeah.
It don't talk about that.
But there's so much focus on it outside.
It's
crazy.
It's control. It's control. Yeah. It's control. It's control. We want to have control over how we feel about what we're doing. We want to have control about how other people feel about what we're doing. It's control. That's all it is.
I will say though, my experience at COY was great. I mean, we talked about when things changed, but spiritually I started thinking differently when I started looking at how other groups move too. So I would say as women, we had it really good at COY, looking at how other people moved.
Oh, yes.
Because that...
compared to other organizations that I've heard of, that was probably real chill. Kia probably had it the worst.
Right.
She probably got it the worst.
They hazed me.
And what she and what she got probably is nothing. Is
compared
a cakewalk
to these other places.
Compared to some of these other communities and organizations.
So I have a question for Jira. Did you ever get any feedback because you didn't get a Hebrew name?
No, I think someone
for not getting a Hebrew name because her name already sounds Hebrew.
That's what I was about to say. I think I spoke to a lot of people that actually thought that was they didn't know that was my actual name.
Right.
Right.
I ended in I wasn't good.
Because I didn't realize that was your real name. When you said Kia, I was just like, okay, well, that must be her Hebrew name. Because that's Hebrew, which is Hebrew.
Right. Okay.
Right. Exactly.
But, it's like, but, your name is Kia, but what is your Hebrew name? Like, it was always like, but what is, like, no, that's my name.
Right.
And I take nothing away from anybody that has a Hebrew name because they all have meaning that are, specific and significant to that person.
Right.
But again, as we have established, I was hazed. Don't treat me differently because I don't have a Hebrew name.
Right.
Right. I think we talked about.
You didn't choose one outside of the one you already had.
Right.
I didn't choose one, and I wasn't given one.
But you had one. That's why he didn't pressure you to change, or you never asked her to change her name because her name was Hebrew.
I got asked, did your Ish give you that name?
Did he
Like,
want you to change her name?
how did he give you that name? I said I chose my own name.
Oh, yeah.
I brought something to her. She was like, I ain't feeling that.
What was it? Do you remember?
I do know what it was.
What was it?
Do you remember? It was Deborah.
No.
That doesn't even fit.
No.
So you feel me?
No.
I could not say, hey, Deborah.
Deborah?
First of all, if you know.
Hold on, let me turn the mic.
Miss by the book right here.
I know why he said it, but that does not fit.
Well, why did I say it?
Go ahead.
Now you
Jira.
know.
Speak,
Jira. Come on, Moray.
Speak.
But I mean, definitely because of who it is, because of who Deborah was. But that's Kia. I mean, I get it, but it's just Kia.
Just Kia.
It's just Kia, and I'm just Najira.
And I find it funny how some people call me by my name that my mother gave me, Regina. Y'all looked at me funny, like, who is that?
Who is that?
Yeah.
But my family would say the same thing, like, who is Itzia? Like, that's me.
Right.
Yeah, that's
But
funny.
I know we had.
I remember you got your job, and I was like, "How's it to y'all?" She was like, "Who?" I mean, Regina.
I gotta think about it too. When I'm like, especially online.
on Facebook. I'm always like, oh, it's
You
not
gotta
Itzia.
double look, yeah.
Who's Regina?
But I think one week we talked about how we didn't know each other's government names, and it might be important that we need to know.
Right.
Exactly.
And I think Imai was like, "What's your name?" And I was like,
Najira.
and she was like, "No, your government name." And I was like,
Najira.
always
That's
been Najira.
Nice.
And then I know somebody had mentioned like, "Oh, well, when you get a husband, he'll give you a name." And I'm like, "But my name's Najira." Like,
What was
Yeah,
that?
my
Because
husband's
my
name.
Ish did not give me my name.
Right. She chose her own name.
Did you choose it?
I chose it myself.
It's so
chose it herself.
perfect.
Just
Right.
like when y'all say, you gotta wear a skirt. If I was gonna wear it, I was gonna wear it my way.
And you did.
As you
Right.
did. Had
When
us
it-
all in there like, what the? Okay, so we
gotta step it up. What you wearing this
You
week?
cannot walk beside this man and look bummy.
You right. You right.
So
you
it's
right.
like, you gotta step it up.
Itziar definitely made us all side eye our sewing skills.
No, I just
me.
said, can I pay you? 'Cause yeah.
not me. I was like, "Itziar, make me a skirt, please."
Let it be pocket.
That was my gift.
Okay.
Jira made you a dress.
All right. Cool. So, talking about the name, right? Names or what have you. A lot of names that certain people have, they don't even know their Hebrew names. So I was looking at a video today, and the guy does a lot of research, and he brought out that the name Jordan, like Michael Jordan, is a Hebrew name. It comes from the Sephardic people. So I'm like, a lot of times we may not know certain things that these are passed down names to us, and sometimes when you're born, your mother may say a name. That's what it is. She may not even know it's a Hebrew name or not, but those things go back to Hebrew names or just a saying. You got to realize, especially in our community, when you don't even know you're Hebrew, you get these what they will call black names, right? And they all have Yah on the back end of them. Sanaya. It's a Hebrew name. All of these names like that. And I will say it's not by chance that happens. It's because it's within your blood. It's there. And once we understand certain names that may not sound Hebrew, it's definitely Hebrew. Like Barkley or Charles Barkley.
Like Caleb.
Certain things they are Hebrew names. So, or O'Neill, those are Hebrew names. We don't even know that, but we'll see.
I know. I mean, I said I was all in, but I was never interested in changing my name at all. Like that just to me. I mean, it just fit. I mean,
Yeah, definitely.
I didn't need a Hebrew name.
You know, that takes me back to the first teaching Kazak did that I actually remember. This was in the first building, and rain was dripping in a bucket,
Right.
and he was going over the scriptures. And it's like the Creator said, "I am who I am," and I was like, "Yeah." So basically, what he's saying, I don't care what you call me, like I am still going to be me. And he kind of paused, like, "Oh, she talking?" And I think of that now with you, with this conversation, like regardless of if we change our name tomorrow,
Right.
you still who you are.
Exactly.
I was coming in the perspective of I was trying to find who I really was. Like my name is who I am. I was just trying to find her. So I didn't need to change the name. I needed to change like how I was moving to fit my name.
Okay.
That was why I never
Right.
felt the need to.
Okay. All right. Well,
Why are you looking like that?
okay. Well, we're gonna probably close out in probably another 5 minutes. And it's been great building with you sisters. It's always great building with you sisters because I know we have conversations when we're all together. We always have conversation that goes a lot deeper than what we're talking about now. So it's one last question I would like to ask of all of you, right? Knowing what you know and what you understand right now today, would you still call yourself a Hebrew Israelite?
Go ahead, Kia.
I actually want to answer that last.
And I would say mentally, spiritually, and physically.
I would say yes.
Okay. It's a yeah.
You already asked me.
I
but
know.
Yes.
Okay. Jira.
I still consider myself Hebrew. I typically do not say Hebrew Israelite.
Okay.
Because I feel like that second part just add a
Oh,
little
yeah.
something
That
to it. Right.
Interesting.
It just, to me, that Israelite part is
Like it triggers something else.
right.
Interesting.
I definitely consider myself Hebrew.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love
Kia?
that. I was actually asked this question in 2015.
Okay.
So, are you a Hebrew or not?
What? Like that?
Just like that.
Wow.
And my answer was, I'm still learning. Today, the me now today, I feel like I have elevated to a new journey, and my answer remains the same.
Okay.
That I am still learning this version of me today.
Okay. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. I like that. I like that.
Now, okay. Yeah. So to branch off from that, yes, I do consider myself Hebrew, but it's different than what I thought it was.
Right.
It's
Oh, yeah.
definitely not in the same way I did when I first walked through those doors of COI.
Right.
Totally
Right.
different.
Yeah. Whole nother level.
Right. Because we've been up in the Malakia frog, as I would say,
The frog.
room over the garage. You know, we've
I knew
all
what it
been
was right
there.
away.
We've all been there, had those interactions, and we can say we're much more than Hebrews,
Exactly.
Right.
and we're much more than Israelites. We're much more than the body that we presently in. You know, as we understand it and as we know, I want to say, believe, we know, and we've been there and we've done these things. So, but it's been great building with your sisters. We're gonna have to have another one because a
Oh,
lot
we
of the
didn't cut up
things.
too much.
No, not at all.
we
Not
welcome
on the
back.
fourth principle.
We can come back.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt. That's the beauty of. I'm glad my brother said we should name it the fourth principle because it gives such a dynamic to each side of everything. You know, what's tall to short, what's short to tall. What's a Hebrew Israelite woman or versus just a regular woman. You have different perspectives of all these things. You know, what's the difference? What's the difference between, you know, all of these things?
regular?
What is it to that?
What's regular?
Regular woman.
Is that?
We about to close out though.
regular.
I know.
Oh,
We about to close out.
Call y'all
What you mean
regular.
regular?
So, but yes, it has been a blessing for the day. Like I say, this conversation actually started last week. And I was like, no, we just need to put the sisters on, let them go. Because I know that they have a lot to say. You know, me personally, I wanted them to do their own podcast, but they that's on them. They're maybe not ready for that, but that's on them. Even if they have time. But we had to
We
get
might
our
do like a
sisters
little
on.
once in a
Right.
I
once
was
every.
telling them about the record we did.
Oh,
You know, check up on me. We got a podcast title.
Yeah,
oh yeah. Yeah. Okay, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
So
I feel like we need an uncut version part too. 'cause,
Absolutely.
we should have
We were on our
recorded.
best behavior.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
did
yeah.
good, y'all.
because it's some
Yes.
I'm pretty sure some things ain't out
make
there.
sure you never know. This is
Yeah.
live.
Yeah, it's certain things that I know that can come out.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
even on my side, I know some stuff can come out. But like I said, I'm always having fun. I don't care what they got going on or what somebody's saying something. Oh no, I'm about to have this fun. I'm about to have Pesach. It's gonna be on and lit for me. I don't care what's going on. I don't care about the guy fighting or he got two other Isha somewhere else and he mad or whatever. I ain't got nothing to do with that. I'm here for Pesach.
Yep.
This is what I'm here for.
But you always been that.
But,
That's
I'm-
what we love
I'm here
about
to-
Zokane.
That's
Zokane.
the DJ.
I'm here to
Come
have
through
fun.
with the come through.
I'm here to
That's
have.
what it is.
Check
I'm
one.
going
I
to
remember
enjoy
the
it.
first time I'm just real quick. I know you're trying to go, but I remember I was scrolling through. Was it Facebook? I think it was Facebook or Instagram. It was Instagram. It's this. I forget the artist. It's this young lady, but she had taken your picture
Yeah.
from that time y'all were in DC.
Yes.
And like used it to like say he was like representative of
Right.
the Hebrew man.
Like
Like
he was holding the staff.
no,
Is that
it
the
was
one?
just.
Yeah, it was
forget
with
what
and it had the
But yeah, I was like that.
the capital
I
behind
was like,
it.
yo,
It was a very good picture.
It was a very good picture.
Yeah, it was.
Prolific.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
So.
It was very much great for advertisements. For sure.
All right, okay, yeah, it was. It
said
was.
all
I remember
right.
when you, I remember when you sent it. I was like, oh, okay, oh, that looks nice. Oh,
Right.
yeah, I had to get that picture, right? So, and I didn't know even though they had took that picture. So,
Yeah.
so like I said, we're gonna go ahead and close out. Is there any last words that anybody want to say before we pass out? But like I say, we're gonna come back because I'm pretty sure there's a lot more to be said probably on a different topic.
Yeah, I'm good.
Love is love.
I love all you guys.
We came up in here with love.
Right,
There's a lot of love.
a lot of love going on.
All things.
Love and light.
Yeah. No, this
That's
was great.
it?
I'm glad I made it.
All right. Okay. All right. Like I said, we go out to close. I'm closing out. Thank y'all for coming to the or listening to the Fourth Principle podcast.
Any plugs?
Yeah. Any plugs? You got any social media thing that you got going
We'll
on?
get there. Since we're gonna be back. But no, I mean, just in terms of plugging, since we're live, yes, obviously, if you follow me, Zayafaya Dunna on Facebook, I do nutrition coaching, personal training, and soon to be introducing a little bit more meal prep for the clients.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a
Oh, I do juice cleanses too. Yes.
yes.
Yes,
See?
her juices are
Yes, they
delicious.
bomb. They bomb. You got anything? Plugs?
Get some juice.
Body butter coming back.
Is it?
We started businesses. We did
Yeah,
start
we did.
businesses.
Oh, what a deal just come to my house.
I'm saying, get caught in the rain and rub it back in. Like, I was never ashy. Let's talk about this.
It's been in my mind.
Naturality.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
I will say all things Jira will be back in a couple weeks.
Okay.
I'm ready. I'm
Let's
ready.
talk about the dead people.
All things Jira
On YouTube, yes.
on YouTube. All right.
To be continued.
Yes.
Just leave it there.
Yes. To be continued.
All right. All right. Shalom, shalom, everybody.
Shalom.
Much blessings to y'all. We
Love and
gone.
light.